Poll after poll shows that Americans, regardless of their political affiliation, want term limits on Congress. In a totally polarized environment, 82% of Americans support congressional term limits and want to make it a reality. But there are some who want to stop it: career politicians and special interest groups. In Alabama, as I've mentioned in previous shows, they're trying to rescind our resolution. Alabama passed congressional term limits resolution in 2018, but now they're trying to rescind it. We're fighting on to defeat this move. Hi, I'm Holly Robichaud, and this is breaking news on term limits. We have some great news. In New Hampshire, former state Senate President Chuck Morse has joined our team, and he is going to be our New Hampshire state chairman. Chuck Morse is a lifelong resident of New Hampshire, born in Salem. He holds a bachelor's degree in business from Plymouth State University. He's the owner of Freshwater Farms, a landscaping business and garden center in southern New Hampshire. He's married to Susan and has one daughter. Morse served in the New Hampshire State House of Representatives from 1998 to 2002. He served in the New Hampshire State Senate from 2002 through 2006 and led the Senate Finance Committee. He returned to the state Senate in 2010 and was elected Senate President in 2013. When Republicans lost the Senate majority, he was elected Minority Leader. When Republicans recaptured the majority in 2020, he was selected the Senate President. In that position, he served as acting governor for 2 days. With Senator Morse's help, we know that New Hampshire will join the growing number of states in passing a resolution for term limits.
Our representatives are accountable to us, and we hold them to high standards of public service. It's time to bring the same level of accountability to Washington, D.C. That's why I've decided to chair the U.S. term limits effort here in New Hampshire. We need to send a clear message to our representatives in Washington, D.C., that we expect them to serve the people, not their own interests. It's time to put an end to the era of career politicians and bring back citizen legislators who are accountable to the people. Federal term limits will help to ensure that our federal elected officials remain accountable to the people they serve rather than entrenched in political interests. It will encourage fresh ideas and new perspectives in government, as well as ensure that there is turnover in Washington, D.C. Federal term limits will also help to prevent the accumulation of power and the influence by a select few, and keep our government truly representative of the people. We cannot continue to allow politicians to make a career out of public service. It's time to take back Washington, D.C. and put an end to the cycle of corruption and entrenched interests.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, special interest groups are trying to have the Alabama legislature rescind our term limits resolution. This underhanded effort is being led in the legislature by Alabama State Representative Ben Harrison and Alabama State Senator Josh Connolly. It's typical politics as usual, and U.S. term limits condemns this effort to rescind our resolution and the political special interest groups behind them. We're urging all Alabama residents to contact their legislators and tell legislators to vote no on this rescind effort. Shame on Ben Harrison and Josh Connolly for putting career politicians ahead of the people. Want to update you on what's happening with New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. More federal grand jury subpoenas were issued this week. For months, Menendez and his wife have been under federal investigation on whether they took cash and gifts inappropriately from a business. This is just an ongoing pattern with this senator. We need term limits. We've got great news. Another Republican presidential candidate has signed the U.S. term limits pledge. The latest signer is tech businessman Vivek Ramaswamy. He joins South Carolina Governor and United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley in doing so. The U.S. term limits pledge reads, "I, as a candidate for President of the United States, pledge to support congressional passage and state ratification of an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would set term limits on the service in the United States Senate and the United States House, as there are terms on the President, as enacted by the 22nd Amendment." We're asking all presidential candidates in both parties to sign our pledge. We've previously discussed the situation with California Senator Dianne Feinstein. She's returned to work in the Senate after being out for 2 months. We're glad she's able to return back to the Senate and wish her a speedy recovery. Yet questions are being raised about her return. The Los Angeles Times reports that Senator Feinstein, who was first elected in 1992, did not appear to know that she was out of office for 2 months and maintains that she had been working at the Senate for those past 2 months and also had been voting on issues despite the fact that she wasn't. Many on both sides of the aisle have been mentioning that Senator Feinstein's situation is yet another reason why we need term limits. Congressional term limits can become a reality. Every week we talk about the momentum we're gaining. For example, this week we had former Senate President Chuck Morse become our state chairman in New Hampshire. With supporters like Senator Morse and others across the country, we're sure to pass term limits, but we can't do it without your help. Please get involved, and please share this program with your friends. This is Holly Robichaud for U.S. Term Limits with breaking news. I'll be back to you next week.